Going to visit someone at their lake home is so different from the reality of owning a lake home and the costs associated with that. If you have friends or family members with a lake home and you've been lucky enough to score an invite to come and hang out and enjoy it with them, then you know what an absolute blast lake life is. You show up with your swimsuits on, you got your bag of chips, your potato salad in hand, ready to swim, float around in a tube, maybe even go for a boat ride. People have been lying to you, making it seem like owning a lake home is just like owning a regular house and it just happens to have a lake out the back. Let me tell you, it is not. And if you aren't aware of some of these hidden costs, you could be liable for thousands of extra dollars a year. I'm going to share with you 5 lies about the cost of owning a lake home, and stick around and I'll share with you a bonus tip on how you can generate extra income from your lake home. And no, I'm not going to suggest that you rent out your house. But I'm curious, what's one thing you didn't expect before buying your lake place or second home or even just your home? Make sure to drop a comment below. It is so much fun sitting on your own dock with a good book, or fishing off the dock, or jumping on your boat to take a spin around the lake. But if you haven't owned a lake home or cabin before, have you thought about how that dock and boat actually get into the water? If you live in Florida or Texas or somewhere that's warm year round, you really only have to think about this once, and that's if you're buying a lake home that doesn't already come with a dock and a boat. If you're buying a lake place in the north, like in Minnesota where I live, or Michigan or Maine or Montana, where the lakes freeze during the winter, the dock and boat can't just stay in the water year round. The force of the ice would crush and destroy them. Now, I was rewatching this and I wanted to add something in. This might surprise you if you're not from a colder climate, because there are people from Minnesota that sometimes aren't even aware of this. If you leave your dock in the water and let the ice freeze around it, water expands as it freezes and the dock will be completely destroyed by the force of the ice. Now, this might sound obvious, but we have a neighbor who for some reason left his dock in the water for winter, and the wooden boards are warped and misshapen and broken into bits now, and they can't even walk on their dock. If you tried to leave a boat in the water, that boat would be forced out of the water and crushed like a tin can. So they need to be taken out every fall, maybe late September, early October, and then put back into the water mid to late April. But how does that actually happen? That depends on your lakeshore. If you have a flat or very gradually sloped lakeshore, then you might be able to use a pickup truck or buy a 4-wheeler or a tractor and figure out how to pull it out yourself. But if your lakeshore is quite sloped, or if you aren't very mobile, or you don't have this set up to easily pull your dock out yourself, there are companies that will do this for you for a fee. If you have to pay for it, this costs hundreds of dollars each time they put the dock in and take it out. If you own a lake home, this probably isn't going to break the bank, but even so, you want to make sure to budget for that. If you have the kind of boat that sits on a boat lift, that's something else that has to be put in every spring and taken out every fall and stored somewhere on your lakeshore when that's not in the water. And speaking of boats, that brings me to my next point. Anyone who says a boat is a good financial investment is lying through their teeth. There is a well-known saying that BOAT is an acronym that stands for Bring Out Another Thousand. Boats are notorious for being money pits, needing costly repairs, sometimes breaking down when you're in the middle of the water, needing maintenance such as oil changes and spark plug replacement. We own a boat, and one time we even had our battery stolen off the back of our boat. It's a $40 battery. What was that idiot criminal even thinking? Not to mention, and again, this doesn't apply to everyone because some people live in warmer climates, but in some part of the country, boats have to be winterized because they're taken out of the water and stored. And that's an additional cost too. Plus, if you don't have a place on your property to store your boat, you guessed it, that's another expense. Now, there's a lot to love about boating and what it can mean for you and your family. Spending quality, uninterrupted time together, being out on the water, enjoying the sunshine, swimming, eating snacks, or bringing a picnic or drinks on the boat. It is a really wonderful way to be present and out in nature, but make sure you go into boat ownership with your eyes wide open and fully aware of some of the costs that will probably definitely come up at some point in the future. Something exponentially less interesting and sexy to talk about than boats is the hidden cost of being on septic systems and well water, which most normal people don't really even enjoy talking about. If your home is connected to city sewer, you might not even know what this is. A septic system is an underground underground wastewater treatment structure that treats both wastewater and household plumbing that's produced from bathrooms, laundry, showers, and kitchen drains. You might think that no city sewer or city water bills anymore would be really neat, and it would be if that was the reality. But the truth is, there can be a lot of expenses associated with having a septic system and a well. For right now, listen up, because what I'm about to say could save you a ton of money. So many lake properties are on septic systems, and if you don't make sure that the septic system is working and compliant before you buy your lake home, you could be liable for having to install a whole new septic system, which can cost anywhere between $15,000 and $40,000 plus, depending on where you're buying. I just had some sellers for an upcoming lake home listing that I have get a quote to replace their non-compliant septic system for over $41,000. Many counties where I live in Minnesota require the seller to have septic compliance testing done prior to listing, but there are plenty of places that don't require that compliance testing. It's important to know what kind of septic system is in place, how often it was pumped, and to request pumping records. If the property is not connected to city water and it's connected to a well, the well water should be tested for nitrates and coliform bacteria at a minimum. If the well water isn't clean or safe for drinking, it needs to be treated. And that's something you want to know before you buy your lake home. Now, as far as the ongoing costs of maintaining these systems, septic system pumping needs to be done every 2 to 3 years, and it costs about $350 to $400. Well water needs to be tested every 2 years or so, and that costs between $150 and $200. The well also needs to be serviced every few years, and that costs about $175 or so. Another not so fun to think about, taxes and insurance. Lake home or cabin owners are lying to you if they say that the property taxes are similar on lake homes to not lake homes. They are not. Property taxes are higher for waterfront property. Their value increases quicker than other types of real estate. Another thing that's higher for lake homes is homeowners insurance, and that's for a few reasons. So first, since it's near a body of water, it might have to have flood insurance depending on where it's situated near the body of water. Make sure to check with your real estate professional to check if it's in a flood zone. If you're thinking about buying a lake home and you don't have a real estate agent, make sure to reach out to me and I'll connect you with a great real estate agent in your area who can help you find the perfect waterfront home for you. I'll put my contact information in the description below. Now, the next reason why insurance is higher is that lake homes are often used as a second home, which if it's going to be vacant for periods of time, that will cause the insurance to be higher. It's a greater risk for the insurance company. If you're using your lake home as a rental when you're not living in it, short-term rental property insurance and increased liability insurance is more expensive than a regular homeowner's policy. With living on water, some homeowners will opt for what's called an umbrella insurance policy, which increases the liability coverage on the policy since there are extra risks associated with living by a body of water. And of course, if you're living on a lake, you're probably going to have a boat, which needs its own special boat insurance. Now, boat insurance isn't very expensive. I think we pay about $16 a month for our trusty old pontoon boat insurance, but it is an additional cost. Swimming around in that nice clear water sounds dreamy, right? Well, how do you think it got so clear? Often it's by treating the lake with chemicals, and that costs money. Many lakes have voluntary organizations dedicated to treating the unwanted, unwelcome, and sometimes invasive aquatic species with a special blend of chemicals, and someone has to pay for that. We live on a lake and we pay around $350 twice a year for the lake water on our shoreline to be treated. If we didn't do that, we could face overgrowth of icky plants that we don't want, like milfoil, and they grow like crazy and can completely take over the shoreline. Speaking of shoreline, one creative way that most people have never heard of to make a little extra money when you're not using your lake is to rent out your lake shore. There's apps such as PeerSpace or Swimly, and they allow people to use and rent your lake shore or pool or water space when you're not using it. So if you're going to be gone for the day or you're on vacation, you could use your space that you're not using and make a little extra money. And it's very minimal effort on your part. I put a link in the comments to sign up for each of these services. So if you have waterfront or a swim area to share, think about clicking on the link and checking it out. Lots of people think the only way to make extra money with your property is to prepare the home to rent on Airbnb or VRBO. And that's certainly one way to make money with your property, but it is a lot of work, especially if you're living in the home, to get the house clean enough to rent it out, all the sheets changed, all your personal items put away in locked areas and secured, all your clothes put away. So this solution is a much easier way to learn a little extra cash. What hidden cost have I missed? Comment below with your experiences with the hidden costs of lake homeownership. And if you're looking for your lake place, we're looking. If you want more info on lake homes, check out my video, 5 Things No One Tells You About Buying a Lake Home. And be on the lookout for my next video, which will go into the details of some of the things that you want to think about if you're looking for a waterfront home to use as a short-term rental.